Hey guys, FearlessML here. How's it going? I think I've reached the point of the year where I'm pretty much finished my video game reviews for this particular year. Considering it's been my first year reviewing, I think it's been quite a productive one, especially since I've only been doing it since May. I'm going to my review tab on my YouTube page, and it looks I reviewed 17 games total for this year for my debut year, and I think that's pretty productive considering, once again, since I've only been doing this since May. And I think since I'm done with video game reviews for this year, which I cannot wait till next year because there's so many games coming out, including Batman Arkham Knight. We got hopefully Kingdom Under Fire 2 and Broforce. The Order 1886 comes out in February. Dying Light comes out in January. There's so many reasons to look forward to 2015. I'm hoping Metal Gear Solid 5 has a release date soon. I'm pretty sure it's coming out next year at some point, but we'll just wait till we get a release date. They just recently revealed Metal Gear Online, and I must say I am so excited. I miss Metal Gear Online from Metal Gear Solid 4, particularly Team Sneaking. I loved Team Sneaking from Metal Gear Solid 4's online component. So I'm really excited about that. Hopefully that comes out sometime next year. Like I said, Batman Arkham Knight. This is going to be the final Batman game from Rocksteady. So obviously this is going to be a humongous event. For my favorite comic book superhero, and also my current favorite superhero in video gaming. I honestly do not see any superhero genre touching what the Arkham series has done for Batman. And especially considering the previous games such as Batman Vengeance, Batman Rise of Shinzu, they pale in comparison to the Arkham series. I kind of wish Rocksteady would try their hands at Superman. Honestly, I think Superman deserves the same touch in video gaming as Batman. In fact, it's rare you even see a Superman game ever. In fact, I honestly cannot recall the last Superman video game I've ever seen. Outside of the Nintendo 64 video game, which I never played because I never had a Nintendo 64. So Batman Arkham Knight is just, it's gonna be huge, obviously, and it's gonna be sad to see the Arkham series end, because that pretty much means no more Batman games for the time being, at least in the near future. And if WB Montreal even thinks about making another Batman game, they're gonna have to mess with me. They're gonna have to mess with me. No, it ain't happening. No. After Arkham Origins, fuck WB Montreal. So anyway, like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm basically making this video because I'm done reviewing games this year, I'm pretty sure of, to give my year-end nominations for what my favorite game was, what my least favorite game was, what my favorite game was that I didn't get to review. I'm doing this off the top of my head, actually, as well, because a few of these categories I already had mapped out in my head since I played the games that are in these categories, and they obviously, most of them have yet to be have any competition, honestly. So why don't we get to the least important categories and go up to the most important? That stems from controversial up to my favorite games. ...2014's Tearjerker from Disappointment Award goes to Destiny. For a title revealed back in 2007 as an Easter egg in Halo 3, and going on to obtain one of the highest budgets ever in gaming history, with a whopping $500 million to boot, the hype was not justified upon release at all. absolutely no differences between the old and new gen versions, its crooked philosophy on storytelling, and its dumb attempts at avoiding to explain almost anything, a biased weapon class system, forcing most of the PvP community to use the same goddamn weapon class for one-hit kill cheap shots, and most of all, the game's way of making the supposed hero, you, the most utterly uninteresting, unimportant space taker that takes a back seat to an AI that does everything required to advance, whereas you're just there to exercise your talent of holding down that trigger button. Combine this with the game's ridiculous attempts to withhold important information by advertising its fucking website. Yes, its own content is used as clickbait in the game. How cheap. And essentially implementing spaceships only as loading screen avatars. I cannot help but ask, what the fuck were they thinking? While Destiny gets the co-op side of things right, it does not justify a game this expensive and this anticipated and hyped from not delivering. But I will admit, however, that the first expansion pack, The Dark Below, does in fact make Destiny a worthwhile title because of its emphasis on the player and not the ghost, making you actually feel important, and also finally introducing us to an interesting character for once in Eris Morn. This expansion pack alone, sadly, probably gives the game some of the feel we were all expecting at launch. Even sadder, it costs an additional $20 for it, only adding more reason to label Destiny a tearjerker of a disappointment. 2014's most controversial title has to be awarded to Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes. I would say sorry to Kojima and Konami, as I am a long-time player of the Metal Gear series, but frankly, I have yet to hear them apologize to us for selling us a demo at nearly full game price. And for those of you who will try to defend this practice, you must first answer this question. Would you pay $110 for a single game? Just a game. Because that's the total amount you'd be paying if you bought both Ground Zeroes and the Phantom Pain. You understand that, right? If your answer is anything other than no, then there's something clearly wrong with you, and I sincerely hope you never run for president. The controversy behind Konami's decision to release this overpriced and undervalued demo of a game is enough to qualify for my category, especially considering the fact that most likely no other game company will probably pull this stunt again. If that doesn't define controversy for a game, I don't know what does. 2014's most overrated title was a tricky one for me, thanks to titles such as Watch Dogs, Call of Duty, and Assassin's Creed, which the former two should have their own category of series that need to die already, but maybe next year. I cannot help but award this category to Titanfall. Titanfall is a great game, don't misunderstand this choice. Titanfall is fun and unique in its own way, but its campaign is linear to the point of making winners losers, and the amount of praise it has received to justify its unearned hype once you actually play a few games. The game really has nothing to hide, no surprises, no holy shit moments. It's just a dud of repetitive fun. And the reviewers are imposing upon the players that we should look at it from another angle and then give it perfect scores, much like the Call of Duty franchise. Really, that really makes this Xbox exclusive stand out as an overrated experience. Though of course I can admit easily, compared to Call of Duty, Titanfall has a lot of potential, and I honestly cannot wait to see the next installment, hopefully without a biased PvP campaign. Which brings me now to 2014's most underrated title, Vice Versa. This for me has to go to Wolfenstein: The New Order. First-person shooters, more often than not, tend to feel the same on the outside. Controller in hand, you look for targets and shoot and move on, yada yada yada. And Wolfenstein was not really any different, but something stood out that made the game worth my time at least, and that was the historical concept of Nazi Germany actually claiming victory in World War II, turning America and the rest of the world around it into turmoil. The game itself does not impress me personally mechanically, but the story and the visual representations almost made me feel like one would in such a reality, isolated and varnished in fear of a worldwide holocaust. The true effect of gimmick gaming. A rare accomplishment through both story and gameplay. Unfortunately, with Wolfenstein, this is accomplished only through story. But the presentation is enough to make it worthwhile and contemplate further on true world history. When it comes to games I wish I could have reviewed, but somehow never got around to, Velocity 2X definitely takes this one home. The independent genre is really garnering incredible opportunities on the new gen consoles, and I strongly advise all of you to contribute time to them if you haven't already. With Velocity 2X, you have two categories of gameplay, pilot and runner. Utilizing both in almost every level, this shoot 'em up game delivers beautiful visuals, a story told through images and wall texts, but thanks to brilliant art that perfectly depicts each scene, voiceovers need no influence whatsoever, especially with the game's catchy background music. The speed gameplay of Velocity is what makes it fun, and proves more that indie games will never have a dimmer light than major games. And Velocity earns an A grade from me easy, just under that. I wouldn't go so far as calling 2014 the year of bad games as opposed to the year of overhyped games, but that does not excuse it from having a bad game here and there. Some developers just make mistakes, and others just purposely make it dull and then hide it behind trailers full of cutscenes and no gameplay. That is mostly what happened with my 2014 worst game of the year, Murdered Soul Suspect. Even with barbaric titles such as Rambo and Rugby, Murdered Soul Suspect for me has no competition here. Why? Because it is a video game that plays out like a board game. I wondered why the trailers never showed any gameplay, and it turns out it was because there was no gameplay. If you call a video game where you run from A to B just to unlock the next cutscene and repeat that cycle over and over again a game, why not just save your money and watch the movie Ghost instead? It is essentially the same premise and tone, except it's a hell lot cheaper. This game was a pure disgrace, from its promotions all the way up to developer Airtight Games' demise soon after its release. This game received my first F grade and hopefully my last. Exclusives tend to be used to define a certain console, or at least how much a brand is willing to pay for it. Either way, players tend to favor consoles based on exclusives. Because I do not have a Wii U console yet, I hope to get one next year. Nintendo unfortunately defaults out of this for this reason, but don't fret because I still got Microsoft and Sony to go through. When it comes to Sony, Infamous Second Son takes the cake when it comes to exclusives, for me. I know what you're thinking, but Fearless, what about The Last of Us Remastered? Well, I do not count previous gen ports as contender titles for the year, but I can at least make it an honorable mention later if it'll make you happy. Infamous gave us not only a fresh story, but a new protagonist as well, who was actually more interesting than the previous one in Cole McGrath. because Cole seemed to have trouble keeping consistency with his personality, going from a grim, I take my shit too seriously kind of guy in Infamous 1 to a Jason Statham wannabe in Infamous 2. And I hate Jason Statham a lot. But in Second Son, we finally have a character with more in-depth personality, a fucking family, hobbies, and multiple abilities that he can switch between at will. And since this title utilized the DualShock 4's touchpad, it made the game even more useful in exercising the PS4's capabilities. When it comes to Microsoft's Xbox One exclusives, this title takes both the exclusive award for Xbox and my coveted Game of the Year award, Sunset Overdrive. What is so strange about this incredible title is despite its enormous praise from both players and reviewers, it seems to be the underdog in the Game of the Year category, but not in mine. Sunset Overdrive is the kind of AAA title that reminds me why you're a gamer, why having fun is a priority, and why changing your character's appearance in every single aspect of the word, from even your gender and race and mid-storyline, can be important when keeping consistency with the game's tone and style, and why that is both important and, oddly at the same time, not important. This is a title that has no interesting characters, a very stupid storyline, and more video game references than I can ever remember. Why is this okay? Because the game itself knows this already, which means that's the entire purpose. It allows you to be free with your leisure and hobby, make the most out of your time mostly fucking around, assuming the role of the goofiest character in the story who is surrounded by every single opposite personality you can think of, who is humoring them just so he can get out of the city, only then to get back in the city. I can't remember how much a game made me smile single-handedly. Sunset Overdrive is one of those games I would never dare to get rid of or trade in, ever. This is what should qualify any game of the year. One that makes you dedicated enough to never get rid of it and reminds you of what games are supposed to do. Sunset Overdrive does all this and then some. Until next year, this is FearlessML, and here's my 2014 honorable mentions list to close things off. Remember to play fearlessly but fair.